All right, well, we're gonna, this is the Design Review Board regular meeting, Monday, June 2nd, 2014. We'll take attendance. John Carroll.
Here.
Paul Lanza.
Yeah.
Ron Perry.
Here.
Anka Dragulski. John Leshever.
Here.
And we're missing Tony Draplick. Yeah, Tony Draplick.
Sullivan said he had a conflict.
Okay, so do we need to appoint John Leshever as his alternate? Okay. Okay with that?
That's it.
Thank you. All right, approval of the minutes from May 19th, 2014.
So moved with a comment.
What's the comment?
I'll get there.
Oh, okay.
I think I'll get there. Anyway. Oh, I gotta look at my copy. It's marked up. Huh.
Does anybody else have any comments? Well, no. You good? Are you good, Anka? Meeting minutes? Okay.
Line 85. I just suggest that we add the words after Webster Bank, also known as the Palmer House. And then on line 135, if you read the sentences before that, it could be confusing. Their development doesn't refer to CLMP, it refers to the applicant. So I would change that there to the proposed development would have 181 units.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not for me.
Right. For motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Approved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. All right, discussion and possible action items. A, application number 14-27 of TJ Donahue of Killian and Donahue LLC, agent, Simsbury Historical Society, Inc., owner, for a site plan amendment for the proposed memorial for Martin Luther King in Connecticut on the property located at 800 Hot Meadow Street, map G10, block 227, lot 001.
Madam Chairman, I'm happy to be here tonight with three of our children who, of the 70 kids who've been involved in this project over the last 5 years, Zach Walsh, and Taylor and Maggie Wora. And they're going to come up and just give you a brief overview of the background of this, and then we're going to run through our presentation for you. And we also have with us Jay Willer, who is the architect and designer.
All right, so we're with the Martin Luther King in Connecticut project, and really we're looking to bring awareness to the time that Martin Luther King spent in Connecticut, and Simsbury especially. So these guys really did a lot of work on the movie. They can tell you more about it than I can, but.
Yeah, the movie was a great project that we got to work on. It required a lot of research over the summers, a lot of interviews with people that we wouldn't normally necessarily have the opportunity to interview. And it was just a great project to work on. We're very proud of it.
And how did it become a memorial?
Well, after the project, we decided we wanted to further the message about Dr. King. So we started to plan a memorial to him.
So we've been, especially with Martin Luther King Day, that's been when we've had a lot of our action. So we've really been bringing awareness to that. At the, Hall is one place, and at the First Church is another place in Simsbury where they like to celebrate Martin Luther King. We've had a lot of presence there, and really now we want to increase that and make a monument to him in the center of the town where people just driving through can see who he was and what he did and his effect on the town, and how he had an effect on him.
I'll run through those. Great. And if anybody has any questions, these guys will be here.
Just a question or a suggestion, if you would. Would you, as experts on the history of Martin Luther King,
Is that all right, Madam
could you
Chairman?
just
If I turn that down?
briefly
Yes,
tell
please.
us about the time he was here in Simsbury?
Yeah, okay, so he came here in 2 summers when he was, I think, 15 and 17, and he spent 2 summers working on the tobacco plantations. And so while he was here, it was the first time that he experienced integration. He lived in a segregated area in Alabama for most of his life before that, so he learned a lot about just what it was like to live in an integrated community, and that really inspired him.
Thank you.
We'll get on to the design aspects of this, John, and they'll be available to you if you have any other questions. This started 5 years ago with Rich Curtis's project at Simsbury High School. It was not a high school project, but it was a group of high school students who started doing the research the girls told you about. And they developed a movie. They made a 15-minute documentary movie of Martin Luther King in Connecticut. And it turned out quite well. They had help from a Emmy-winning artist, Bobby Houston. And they all worked like heck all summer long. They got no credit for it at school or anything else. And they created a movie that they showed. They opened at at a statewide gathering on Martin Luther King Day in 2011 and at the Eno Memorial Hall. 400 people saw it at the Eno Memorial Hall, and the event in Hartford was terrific. John Connor Malley, who's still helping with the project and is going to graduate from Hobart. Is he going to graduate from Hobart this year? And Stefan was the voice of Martin Luther King in the movie. We started participating with a bunch of groups in town to have Martin Luther King Day, and we've done that ever since and had quite a wonderful gathering. Here was the Martin Luther King Day several years ago when the General Counsel of Signet Insurance Company gave us a bequest of $20,000 to build that. You see all our kids there, some of our kids there. And the student initiative continues. We've had more than 5 dozen kids involved in the project. They've done a great job. And when they got forward to build a memorial, these are their words. They wanted to serve, to educate, to celebrate, and to inspire people with the story of Martin Luther King in Simsbury. One of the things that they remarked upon time and time again was in 1944, when he was here for the first time, he wrote some of the special letters to his family. He was their age. The kids in the high school were the same age as Martin Luther King was at that time, and they thought that was significant. They've had a bunch of publications and stuff that's available to you. And so we get to the point as to where this is going to be. And this is the looking south on Hot Meadow Street on the grounds of the Simsbury Historical Society. This building here would be Vincent Sports Shop. That's Phelps Lane, the back of those. This is the Hendricks Cottage. That's on the other side of the street. You can see the white fence that governs the boundary of this property. And this is the schoolhouse. This is the location of the future memorial. The schoolhouse is going to move right back here to continue to be an important part of the Historical Society site. But this will be the spot for the memorial. It'll have great visual access to Hot Meadow Street. And this is the face sheet of the plans, and I think you have that in your package, but this is the and this is the location of the this is the A2 survey that's part of the application, and it shows the location of the red schoolhouse. You see the square up to the top of the lot there. And that's the red schoolhouse again, where it sits today, and that will be, the memorial will go about another 8 feet, I think, east of that. And that's showing the proposed location of the memorial, the ellipse up in the front of the, at the top of the site, and you can see the schoolhouse in its new location. And if you look at the cross configuration, that's the walkway in front of the Hendricks Cottage. And just to give you a little bit further scale and understanding where that is, I'm going to go back to this drawing, and you can see the sidewalk configuration there. And that's with the existing schoolhouse in the location it's in. And then there's the sidewalk location with the new schoolhouse and where the, helping you get a scale as to where that's going to be. This shows what the panels are going to look like. They're glass panels. There are 5 of them. That's the mock-up that we had, that the kids have, and that's a piece of glass. I think you can see it a little bit, but glass is opaque. And there's the mock-up again. And the 5 slides tell the story that was the story in the movie and the story they feel is important for people in Simsbury to know. And I agree with them. And that's it for that. Jay Willerup is here, and he'd like to go through the plans with you. I think you all have plans in your packets there.
Just for the record, I'm Jay Willerup. We have no plans.
Oh. Well, we got some for you. And some of these are just a limited number of sheets.
That's right. We can share. So, can I ask a question first?
Yes.
Why did you pick that site? And is there no other options for the site without moving a historic building? Just curious.
The historic building is not aboriginal there. It's not from there. That's a historic building. That historic building was moved from Bloomfield there on a flatbed truck. But and it doesn't have a foundation, so it moves well. The siting of that project was significant. It was the original project to have some kind of memorial in Simsbury was started by a group, and there were bitter fights about where it would be. And when the kids got involved, it was really great because everybody coalesced. The Simsbury Free Library, which I'm a board member of, took over the kids' sponsorship, and Mr. Kurz approached us, and we're very pleased to do it and made the facility available to them. And the front lawn of the Free Library, the yellow building, was considered as a site. But I'm also on the board of the Historical Society, and working with Kevin Gray and the leadership there, that's where it belongs. It's a very significant part of Simsbury's history. It will put the site on the Connecticut Freedom Trail, which is a very significant circumstance. We're very pleased that the Historical Society is happy to file this application, get us there. That's how we ended up there. And we wanted adjacent to the road, we wanted to have great visual connection with the road. We wanted people to be able to drive by and see it and stop and go there. And we didn't want to interrupt the use of the Simsbury Historical Society's green, which is really the town green. So it's off in the corner. The bench will serve both the memorial, and you can sit and watch the concerts there as well. Good.
Yes, thank you.
The first set of drawings are obviously the site plans, landscape drawings. And then we go into the design of the memorial itself. The design really came out of interaction between a local, he's a Massachusetts artist, and the students. And it was the students that really worked to get the symbolism out of the documentary. The use of the native brownstone, which is where the children are from. The use of Georgia granite, which is where Martin Luther King is from. So all these elements are in the design. The students even had come up with some of the terms, how many glass panels that they wanted. They liked the idea that it was translucent. You know, that it's just words so that when you're on the site, you don't see this as a very heavy, monolithic monument. It's nice and light and airy, and it has some visual interest to it. There's a sitting bench, you know, that people can sit on and kind of contemplate. You know, there might be a group of students of 20 people that might come on field trips and see this. And there's also, we're looking into putting a timeline of Martin Luther King and his important dates on the top of the bench that would be engraved into the granite. Any other questions?
Is this are you fundraising for this? Or is
Yes.
it primarily?
At this point, we've identified where we're going to get $78,000. The town has expressed an interest in supporting us, and if the town comes along, we think that we're done. But we've got a general contractor who's helping us significantly. There's a lot of contributed work, and we're ready to.
What is the total cost or total expected cost?
Our budget is $110,000.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The native brownstone exit markers, could you describe what they're for? And
Sure. It's as far as a visual description, it's very similar to the markers that are down at Rotary Park. They have a slope face on them that have a bronze plaque. It would be used in a couple different forms. One, to describe the memorial, you know, how it came to be, what it is, the symbolism, and also there'd be other bronze plaques on it that would list the donors and the students' names and people that were involved in it.
the second question is the stainless steel edged glass panels.
Yes, it's the glass we're looking to use. We have to think of longevity, and so what we're doing is there's a process that you can do an image on the glass. It's an epoxy image, and it can be not only text, it can be photographs, it can be black and white, it can be color. That would be put on the glass, and what we'll do is we'll laminate the glass so that it's protected. The image is protected, no one will be able to scrape it off. But in doing so, when you have the lamination, there's a seam. Basically, it's a channel. The stainless steel is a channel around it to protect the glass.
It'll help it from getting chipped over time as well.
Right, I think it's the idea of the stainless is sort of troubling me, you know, catching sunlight, flashing, looking kind of modern
Yep.
in a historic setting.
Yeah, but we're trying to keep it as small as possible so that it doesn't become a major statement. And we want the image, and that's why it's
Right.
glass. The image is floating. The glass kind of disappears, but it's clear.
Madam Chairman, I'm almost reluctant to say this, but I think we have to talk about it. Access and security. This monument, to me, is an invitation to disaster unless we deal with it from a security standpoint. Glass, even though it is quote unquote unbreakable, it's an invitation. And it happens all the time. And my feeling here is this. You show access, and this is the problem. You want access, obviously. We want folks to come in and sit and think and understand the monument and what it's all about. On the other hand, we have an invitation, if you will, to vandalism, to racism, if you will, to, I'm concerned about the security. And I don't know if you've done any thought about it or done anything about security on this site?
Yes, we did. When we looked at the possible location for this, we were concerned about security. We're not concerned about racism. I mean, hate will
Well,
be.
racism as a.
We're not concerned about that.
Go ahead.
We're concerned about security as you are. And we came to the conclusion with the Historical Society and ourselves that facing it up on the busiest intersection in Simsbury, right at the street, is a very appropriate location. It's the most secure location because it has the most visual access and the most constant flow of traffic back and forth. We've looked at monuments, the Sojourner Truth Monument, we looked at the Amistad Monument, New Haven. Very similar location, right on Main Street. So we're very happy to, and the Historical Society's very happy to consider that risk and then say, let's not hide in the back, let's not hide anywhere where it can be, let's put it right out front where it will have the most visual access for everybody.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hope you're right. I hope we don't have an issue.
Mr. Carroll, I hope I'm right too.
Say again?
I hope I'm right too. That's a risk you take, but
Yeah, there are things that can be done, I think, to, but
It's
it's,
also one of the reasons why we chose stone versus wood, because of its durability and its long lasting, its resistance.
I guess I'm not clear on how
Okay.
the glass panels are mounted then.
I was that.
They're embedded down into the big concrete foundation and bolted into that.
Is there a frame that holds it in place
Yeah,
down the wall?
there's a frame that clamps around it.
At the bottom.
So they could be replaced if
Yeah.
needed to.
Yep.
And is there lighting expected or anticipated or desired?
none at this time. However, as we get into it, we know that and we don't expect it because that would be the Historical Society's call. But as we get to this juncture, the Historical Society is talking about programs that will be there, school programs and programs that will be available. So it may be dynamic. I mean, we want it there to be used, to share this message every day and time and again, and particularly focused on the school kids and the links to the education system. So it will be dynamic, and we do expect changes and development as time goes on.
I would,
Everything that Jay designs, there's no question about it. I like it very much. But are you aware that there is another memorial, the Veterans Memorial, I think,
Yeah.
that's in the making, in the same phase of design? It's proposed very close, across the street at the corner of the library, the main library, with the Route 10. I just want you to be aware. So there will be basically two memorials, relatively close, and to me at least, just looking at the plan layout, very similar in configuration.
I haven't seen the other.
I would like you
Yeah,
to.
but they saw yours before they did it. But
I like yours.
But there
I
aren't
like yours
two.
better than the other one, but still,
there aren't two memorials there. There are 1,000. The cemetery has memorials of every kind, shape, and manner. Nothing more appropriate than memorials on Main Street. We are very aware of that.
Yeah, no, I just try to find out also how the other proposed memorial looks like.
Well, I've seen it.
Just, a piece of advice.
Well, this was really an outfall from the documentary, and it was the kids. There was an artist who sat down with the kids, and I don't even know if the Veterans Memorial was even thought of at that point. I mean, it was a dialogue with 4 kids and the artist, and they came up with the symbolism. Yes.
So if we're expecting the visibility to attract people, where are they parking? Is there on-street parking right adjacent to that?
On-street parking, and the Simsbury Historical Society has
In the back?
I think it has an 18.
Right.
So
I'm just wondering, is there an issue about people who want to just, look at that,
the
I
beauty of
wanna pull
this
over?
is just as we were going down Independence Avenue in Washington D.C. If you see something like the Einstein Memorial, pull right off, parallel park, walk out, and go see it. We expect the traffic to be in small numbers, people going through, and the primary focus we're going to focus most on is getting classroom groups in there, and they will park in the parking lot, walk back up.
Whether it's seniors or elementary school kids.
I apologize. The question about lighting, is it going to be lit?
That's a call for the Historical Society.
Say again?
Call for the Historical Society, and I don't think so, John.
Right. Let me just, I don't go away from the security problem that easily. When you do the building, put in some underground conduit, so that if you need to put in an alarm system, it's there. All you gotta do is pull the wires, and it won't cost anything. It won't cost amount to anything to do that.
That's no problem, right, Jane?
Yeah.
You gotta have a way to have somebody know that somebody's in there that shouldn't be there. Okay?
That was another reason also why the students had designed it as an open memorial, you know,
Yeah.
that it has the glass. The tallest thing is the bench. It's 18 inches high, that's it.
Well, there's different ways to do the alarm system, and you know, the police department, I'm sure, can get involved, and if it's necessary. The only way you're going to find out if it's necessary is somebody's going to come in there and do some damage. So if you're going to have to replace stuff, then you can do your alarm system, and then you're the major part of the work done when it's easy to do. Easy being cheap.
Do you have any other questions, comments?
I have comments. I mean, are we gonna have a discussion amongst ourselves here before we do
Well,
anything?
what are we actually approving today? Is this just a site plan amendment?
Yeah,
That-
it is, and it's for recommendation to the zoning commission subsequently.
What is the current zoning, or what's the current site, like, it's just to build this, so are we approving the design today, or is this approval
That's
to?
what they're asking for.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is not, the other memorial that you have is a town memorial. This is a private memorial. So this is just a structure. I mean, we're very respectful of your jurisdiction, but it's this is site plan approval, and if you approve it, we're gonna be able to build it.
Okay,
Well,
it's
I'm not
just,
sure.
I'm sorry, he had a,
Oh, I know how hard you guys have worked on it. Just as an aside, because I've already bought my brick. How many more do you have to sell, and how many, do you know?
Well, I think we're getting pretty close on the funding, right?
We're at $78,000 out of 110, and we know where the next 30 is coming from.
That's great.
And you'll always be able to buy a brick. Because
I've already got mine. That's good.
if you want to buy a second one.
So I have a question, Hiram. The gentleman's assertion that we're only here to approve the site plan and not the design of the monument.
Well, I think that
Is that
this
correct?
board, I think this
We're
board's
design
function
board.
is design.
Right.
So I think if you have design comments, relay them to the applicant. I mean, this is the appropriate time. We'd rather see those kinds of comments here than at the zoning commission. Those are, folks are not typically skilled and knowledgeable about design, so I think this is the right place for those comments, so.
And the answer about the removability of the panels, or the replaceability of the panels is, I think, is key. For me, is in design. If something does happen to get broken, car drives into it for whatever reason, that the panels have the ability to be replaced.
Yeah,
That's the
you have
biggest.
to remove the granite base that it sits in, and...
Right, I'm not saying it has to be easy, but I'm just saying I think it needs to have the ability to be replaced.
I think it wasn't too long ago, actually, there was a huge tree limb that came down, I think on the little red house, little red structure, a couple of years ago. So, the tree branch came down from one of the
Right.
sycamores that was there, something like that.
Yeah, and it's not something that's completely innocent, I wouldn't want to put yourself in a position where you're, holy cow, we can't fix this.
Yes.
For me, I think that's the biggest thing is to make sure that they're replaceable.
We've had more than one tree problem.
Well, I guess for me, that there are two things. From a design standpoint, I'm still troubled. I understand the answer of why you want to have a metal rim to protect the laminate, but the idea of it being stainless steel, which will reflect light or flash as people drive by, to me is too modern for the historic character of the location. But I question ultimately the placement of this in this particular spot on Main Street, because the historic district property has, you know, a distinct 17th century, 18th century feeling to it, and this is a really modern structure. Those are my two concerns. From a design standpoint, I would think if you could do it in a black or some other colored metal that would not catch the light, not appear from, because in concert you've got 5 of these. You know, you could have sort of a sparkle to it.
Just as a clarity, the stainless steel band is probably only going to be about ½ inch. So it's minimum in order to protect it and stay on and grasp it.
Question. Could you use core 10 instead of stainless steel if that?
Well, then the core 10 is going to, as it ages, it leaches, and it may affect the granite.
Okay.
You know, it may stain the granite below because it sits on the granite base too. And we were looking to, obviously the use of materials was important. You know, I thought of brass, bronze, copper, core 10, you know, plastics, all kinds of stuff. I felt that the stainless was, you know, the strongest, could be made the smallest, so it doesn't have the visual impact. I mean, ideally, it would be nice to have none, but then we're looking at an issue of degradation over age.
But you were talking, is it a polished stainless or a brushed?
Probably, well, we were thinking polished.
Because obviously as a brushed, it would serve the same purpose without having the reflective quality.
We get the reflection off when you look at glass, that's polished. So we're just trying to match that.
I guess that goes back to my concern about this location.
Madam Chairman, if I may.
Yes, John.
I think the use of the glass is excellent. I think from a design standpoint, it is different, and it also you see through it to where we are. And everyone is different in terms of the background, and everyone is different depending on the season. Everyone is different based on the lighting. And I really think I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a great design. And I hope that it is never broken. Okay.
I'd like to say thank you, but I can't. It's the students who saw the ideas.
I think, sometimes it's up to us to say thank you, us citizens, say thank you to these young people and all the other folks that have been involved in a project like this. When you get to it, Madam Chairman, I'd like to make the motion because we have a process and a procedure relative to motions that I want to start using again.
All right, does anybody else have any comments or questions they'd like to?
Can you run again the PowerPoint? Show us again, just to clarify to see again one more time where the stainless steel is going to be. If it shows.
I don't think it's in the mock-up, right? In the
It was
glass
not.
mock-up,
See if it's in the rendering or
It
not.
was
I don't
not.
think it was in your actual glass panel you made either. It was just a piece of glass.
And I don't have the big drawings.
It doesn't show. It doesn't really show here either.
John,
It's really fine.
does it show me,
It's just a tiny little edge band.
just to address John's concern, because
You can't see it.
There's barely I know they're there.
so it's going to be around,
Just around the 3 visual sides of
well, I'm sure in final stages of design, you will consider John's, comments.
So if we can go,
Can you tell us what those are?
those would be plantings behind it so that you could read the text against it. Is a dark green background or is a solid background, and you would be able to see through it, but we would change that just so that you can see it, so it is completely transparent.
John, I think you're concerned with the Historical Society. My take on that is the Historical Society has been involved in this process. And I initially had that concern, why are we putting in this Historical Society? And seeing that they're involved and helping with the placement. Am I mistaken in saying that?
Mr. Perry, they're the applicant.
I understand.
I think
I understood that. yeah.
I'm okay with that placement
There's the picture.
because of that.
There's some on the board at the Historical Society who are very disappointed, or who welcome this turn away from the feudal system of putting buildings at your perimeter to block your corners. And they feel that there's a new group that, or some of the group, a significant portion of the group feels that the green area is Simsbury's town green, and that it should be the most free and open access for people to come and go. So that the new facility there, on the left-hand side as you look at it are the 5 panels. On the right-hand side as you look at it is a low bench that's a curved bench that will serve both looking into the grounds of the Historical Society and on the other side looking at the memorial. So it opens the Historical Society grounds more than the present configuration.
I think one of the things that I guess commends it to me is that it's low profile and that you can see through the glass. So the placement of the 5 bushes or hedges behind it, to me, adds too much density to it.
I think you said they're gone already.
Did he say they're gone? No, I don't think he
Well,
did.
they're not, that's conceptual, those are
Just a
that's
rendering.
conceptual.
Yeah.
And I'm not,
That
they
was
certainly
yours.
won't look like that. There might be some back landscaping, low shrub landscaping, but that's not grounded stone.
Madam Chairman, I just had, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, and when I talked about the background, if you sit on the bench and look at the panels, you're looking at a building across the street. I would turn it so you're looking out on the green and the rest of the Historical Society.
What we have on the design is you come in off of Hot Meadow and you come down the walk and you kind of come through the memorial. It's directed, as you're standing,
These are the glass panels here.
Yeah, but as you come in and what it's meant to do is take you and lead you to the Historical Society.
Well, I understand that. What I'm saying here is this, and, correct me if I'm wrong or don't agree with me, but what I'm saying here is if I come in here and I sit down there and I take advantage of the creation of the glass and the background, that's the point. And the background here really isn't very interesting. And if it can be turned in such a way that you're looking out this way, when after you enter, then you're looking at the rest of the Historical Society, which I think is much more interesting.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why we had the
The Methodist Church isn't bad, John.
Pardon?
The Methodist Church isn't bad, it's one of the prettiest structures in town. If you're at that corner of the bench, you can look to your right to the Historical Society, to your left you can look at the Methodist Church across the street.
I think if there was to be any planting, it would probably be along this
Wait a minute
area.
now. Wait a minute. This is Hot Meadow, is
Yes,
that? All right.
yes.
And this,
That's Phelps Lane.
okay, that's what I'm saying is, the church is over here.
Across the street.
Yeah, across the street.
It's directly across.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting on the bench looking at the panels. So if I'm looking through the panels, I'm looking this way, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Vincent's,
that's right.
Which is Oliver's building, which isn't very pretty, and a parking lot, and another little building. It's a comment.
That particular aspect of the siting was the choice of the Historical Society, kind of following your point that they wanted.
And frankly, my reaction to John's comment is that I would rather it be the way it's designed than to turn it, because I think at least it's backing up against the side street, and it's, it's tucked back in there, so it's not sticking out into the space with the height.
Can you put the panels up?
I think it's better
One
the
of
way it's
them
designed.
showing the panels, not that one, the real one, that's it, okay. No, back on the lawn. All right, now we're looking at Eno in the background. Very interesting. If I don't want to flog a dead horse here, I'm just saying that the way this, to me, is drawn, you're looking at a small building on the corner and another building with a driveway and a parking lot in between. And is that the best view of the background, for the background?
Probably not, but the Historical Society's feeling was, they wanted this to flow and integrate into the lawn area, the main lawn area, so they didn't want a barrier that you were looking through or had to go through or be at. They wanted the barrier and back in, that's why.
You'd have to go around it to get in.
That's right, they don't want that, they want you to be able to come directly integrate into the site.
And again, if you look at the paving pattern, you can see that as you come through, and you go past the panels, it leads you right to the tavern, and it leads you to the open space.
How far away from the glass do you have to be able to read it? Or how close do you have to be?
This is not a good representative because this has about 3 times as many words as the actual words. So I think it was 12 feet, 15 feet.
That's one of the reasons why we did the mock-up. And we're probably going to do another one just as a test and see what it looks like, not only from the short, the opening and the exit, but also from the furthest most point to see how much we can read, how much do we want to portray as text.
The design is going to be that you sit on the bench and you're able to read.
But you have to let the kids test that.
That's why
the rest of us can't see.
Vision glasses on. All right. Don, anything else?
Okay with
Robin,
me?
anything else? Anka? Okay, anything else? All right, you want to make a motion? Or adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chairman, regarding the application of number 1427 of T.J. Donahue, Killian and Donahue LLC agent, Simsbury Historical Society, Inc., owner, for a site plan amendment for the proposed memorial for Martin Luther King in Connecticut on the property located at 800 Hop Meadow Street, map G10, block 227, lot 001. The Design Review Board finds this application substantially consistent with the intent and principles of the guidelines of community design and recommends approval. The application is represented by drawing titled Site Improvement Plan L2, drawings, plural. Sectional plan,
There's a whole bunch. Can
drawing
you just
number
say
A2.
12 drawings?
Pardon?
There's 12 drawings. Can you just say for the 12 drawings submitted? So we don't have to list every single one, or?
Yes, we do. Drawing number A5, elevations.
These aren't all the drawings though, John. These are just a couple that he gave to us. There's actually 12 of them, that we don't have all of them.
Well, that's what we have. so that's what we're
Yeah, but
voting
if you look
on.
at the title page, there's 12 drawings, so can we just say the 12 drawings package, 98% submission, dated April 22nd, 2014? It's on the sheet,
Okay,
just be easier.
all right, so moved.
All right, second.
A second.
Thanks, Ron. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Application's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you,
thank all
guys.
of
You did a great job. Thank you. Very nice. Very good.
And we'll look into stainless steel. Thank you.
What could you do there? Do you have any other ideas?
Just for your information, board,
Okay.
this board does not approve, this board recommends. And the language that I used was agreed upon with the zoning commission. And if the zoning commission would like to change it, then that's fine.
That's correct.
But so I forget, somewhere along the way, it was suggested and recommended that this type of language be used, particularly when we're not wholly recommending. We have recommending subject to or recommending disapproval. So we do need to follow the line.
Before we move on to the next one, they ran out in a hurry, and Hiram, I'm sure they'll catch this eventually, but there was a typo in one of their things, and
On one of the narrative pieces of
the Simsbury story, says while is Simsbury, should be while in. And I'm sure they'll catch it, but if they didn't.
Hopefully they will before they etch that in one of these glass panels. All right, item B, referral of application of Simsbury Zoning Commission for proposed revisions to Article 7, Section C.9 of the Simsbury zoning regulations regarding conditions of approval and requirements for accessory dwelling units in the town of Simsbury.
Normally, it's a little bit unusual in that normally, design review board wouldn't get involved with specific zoning regulations per se. The reason that I thought that this was important just to bring to your attention is that accessory dwelling units, well, many people agree that there needs to be some sort of vehicle for providing accessory dwelling units or additional dwelling units in some areas. Sometimes the design of those gets to become important to the neighbors or the neighborhood, whether it's 2 doors on a house that didn't have 2 doors before, or whatever it happens to be. And so the reason that I wanted to bring this to your attention was just to show you what the commission's going to be considering. The Planning Commission took a look at this last week and had a couple of questions about some of the wording, what is an accessory dwelling unit, things like that, that you folks may or may not know or may not care about. But basically, the regulations as they currently exist don't require that the accessory dwelling unit be lived in by someone who's related to the family. Doesn't necessarily require that that the person be there for any particular reason. It could be simply a rental under the current regulations. And I think that typically that's worked out pretty well for us. In most cases, if these units exist in neighborhoods and there's no problem, we probably never hear about them. I'm sure there are many of these units in town now that we don't hear about. They may or may not have a permit. In some cases, they may not. We ultimately discover them, when the house is being sold or transferred or whatever. But the basic idea here is to try to just sort of show you what the criteria are that the commission is considering with regard to this particular regulation. And just wanted to bring it to your attention. I didn't know if you have any specific questions about it. It's not a very complex or terribly detailed regulation, but what it does provide is the ability for homeowner to rent a portion of the dwelling unit. Assume that all the building codes are met, obviously access, fire, and so on, safety. That there's not a lot of additional parking that's created. There needs to be room, obviously, for the tenant of the unit to be able to park their car or whatever the vehicle is. But there's not a lot of additional street,
Didn't we have one of these?
It's very similar.
This came through, an accessory dwelling application come through once already?
Yep, the zoning commission's had 2 or 3 of them recently, I think. And some of them are get approved, and they've had a couple that were not approved.
Yeah, but we had an
I
apartment.
think it was in the zoning. We were in the zoning meeting.
Did we sit in the zoning meeting that they
Yes.
had? I thought that came
The
across
apartment.
here.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
just
in the
looking to see
zoning.
the last one. Maybe I sat in it, couldn't remember.
Yeah, you and I were both there, I think, that
Yeah.
got the house for the
Sorry.
family.
One of the
Ah, Oakland.
key things here is that they need to be integrated somewhat into the neighborhood, into the structure. The most important thing, I think, is that regulations do require that the owner of the property live in one of the units.
Current regulation?
Current regulations, and the new one as well, and the proposed one as well. So that the owner needs to be a resident on the property. And that's we felt that was very important as well.
I'm just a little confused by this. It says delete existing text and replace with the following. And then delete existing text. What we're seeing is what you want to replace it with.
That's correct. Existing Article 7, C9 has many of the same criteria, but this is expanded slightly. So this would be the new wording. This is all the new wording here.
So in B3,
B3, John?
B3, that's
Yep.
either the primary dwelling unit or in the accessory dwelling unit?
Correct.
Where it says of? It said or?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so the owner has to live on the property?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the idea there is perhaps some older folks don't need a large house anymore. Maybe a number of months of the year they're traveling somewhere. But they want to make sure that they own the property, that they primarily reside there, and when they come back from their vacation, they still live there. So that's the idea. The rest of it is pretty similar. I think what the commission wrestled with, or wrestles with once in a while, is the standards. And there's been a suggestion I'm going to make to the zoning commission a little bit later today, is that under the standards, number 1 in the current regulation says the need for the proposed use and the proposed location. And this gets a little subjective sometimes. So if no one objects and the commission feels as though the application meets the requirements and is filed and is complete, there's generally not a problem. Sometimes, though, if the neighbors think that there is a problem, or they think that the neighborhood shouldn't have an accessory dwelling unit for whatever reason, people use that particular section to say, well, we don't need it, or they don't need it. And so that's a sort of a subjective term. And so what the intent here is to refer back to the purpose in the regulation. And the purpose specifically comes from, derived from the Plan of Conservation and Development as it may be amended, but it talks about providing a variety of housing for all segments of the population, preserving the appearance and general character of the neighborhoods, and then specifically uses the special exception vehicle which requires a public hearing for creating these things. Creation of a single accessory dwelling unit which is incidental, subordinate to the existing family unit. So the sizes of the unit are there, they're subordinate to and incidental to the dwelling unit. You're not going to get 2 single-family houses on the same unit, on the same house. So this is specifically set up for doing that. So any other questions or comments I can have, happy to.
I think it's B9, continuation of accessory dwelling unit, that the enforcement clause?
Yes.
If property
Yeah.
changes hands?
Yeah, if someone
That's a
sells
tough
it.
one.
Yeah, it is. And what happens is sometimes people simply assume that that's there. Now, what can happen too is that if somebody actually gets a permit, and then ultimately they sell the house, and the new owner may, for whatever reason, isn't informed by their attorney, their closing attorney, or they're unaware of this, and then somebody complains about it later on. If we find that it did originally have a permit, it's not going to be very difficult to get that sort of reinstituted. And the point there is, we want to have some mechanism to say that just because it gets granted once, that doesn't mean it is there forever. So that's the catchphrase there. But if they let us know and hopefully within 30 days, then we can state whether the new owners intend to continue it or not, and they get them to continue. So that's the idea. It's a balance. We're trying to balance the discretion.
Comment, question, whatever. Being now a retired remodeling contractor, one of the mantras of our business and our is, if you're going to do a major addition, it best look good and it best look like the rest of the building. That's a rule in our business. And it seems to me that rules are rules, and there's no rule that I'm aware of in the code that says that if you're going to put a 100, 200 square foot addition on your house, it has to be architecturally correct to meet the rest of it. And since it's not there to build an addition, it shouldn't be here to build an addition for that purpose. On the other hand, if you make a requirement for design review of a residence that is going to have a major addition, I think, and for any use, I think what that may do is give us a little bit more work. On the other hand, what it may do is stop the complaining, if you will, from neighbors who, a guy can build an addition on a good-looking house that looks like hell, and nobody can stop him. So it's a comment, applies to this and also applies to, I think, major additions.
Yeah, I think that we begin to come to the point where we're sort of crossing a line. We have to be really careful about regulating the appearance of single-family dwellings. And it's great that your professional associations say this is how it should look and compatible with the rest of the architecture. It's great that we have architects that understand that as well. I think that's important. I think in terms of zoning, we have to be really careful that we don't try to design or tell people what their single-family homes need to look like. So I think that's, we do look at the design, staff looks at the design, we ask them for plans of what they propose to do. We can require that they meet all the zoning regulations, we can require that they meet all the building codes. We hope that aesthetically their single-family homes are designed in accordance with what their house should look like. We just have to be very careful about not going too far there, John. So I agree with you that hopefully we can get them to do what we would like them to do. We just need to be a little careful about it.
So Hiram, do you need us to approve anything in here, or are you just looking for a referral?
Just comments, if you have any
okay.
comments, just let us know. Zoning Commission will consider it later this evening, whether they vote tonight or not. But if you see anything that you think we've missed, or the typos, I appreciate that very much. I thought I found another one earlier. So.
Typo man today.
I'm sorry, but I found another one.
Okay, Tom, please.
I'm just reading, and I say, in 9,
Okay.
about halfway down, unless I'm misunderstanding what it's saying, it's the sentence that starts, if the new owners intend to continue.
Yeah.
The use, the principal owner shall also file with the Land Use Office Zoning Commission and affidavit of in regard.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to read?
That's fine. Yeah. Great.
What's that supposed to read?
Ian.
An affidavit in regard? No of?
Right.
Okay. I didn't know what, I was a little confused there. At least you know I'm reading it.
No, I appreciate that.
I can't read that fast.
I don't read those small words anyway. I skip right over them. I read really fast, and I read just the big things. So skip the thes, and stuff. Anyway, all right. Should we move on to item C, or do you need anything?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Item C is a referral of proposed new form-based code zoning for property located at 200 Hot Meadow Street.
This is the new code that we've talked about for the the Hartford property. It's a fairly lengthy document, as you can see. I think that this code is, well, it's still form-based, is a little bit different than the town center code, there's no question about that. And perhaps the easiest thing to do is talk a little bit about the process. That would be primarily how this board would be involved in these things. There are 4 different types of applications that could come in under this code. Type 1 application would be an application which is, and it's explained on page 59 actually, it's really probably the best explanation of it. Type 1 application, reuse of the existing building on the site with very little changes, really, very simple. Somebody might move into the existing building, you'd all like to see that, and not change anything. Maybe they will put a new sign up, something like that. That'd be great. Type 1 application. Type 2 application, also just a little bit more in detail, reuse of the existing building with site improvements, with exterior remodeling. So they might have some changes to the exterior of the building, but with really relatively few changes to it as well. Page 59, Paul. The Type 3 application, and that's would require a new master site development plan. So somebody would come in with a plan for the site, master site development plan, or a major amendment for a building which is over 25,000 square feet. Same way that we have in the town center, buildings up to 25,000 square feet don't really require major review. If they're constructed and placed, built in accordance with the plan that's created, that's been adopted and accepted, up to 25,000 square feet, it doesn't have to have a major site plan development plan. And so those were relatively, that would be smaller buildings. And Type 4 application, which would become the most complex of the applications, are alternative compliance plan. That is, if the plans don't meet exactly what was contemplated in the regulation, and somebody says, well, we have a better idea, and they bring that site development plan in to the commission. This commission as well would see that, take a look at it, find out whether it's in keeping with the rest of the regulation, whether it's in keeping with these overall illustrative plans that were created as part of this development as well, and find out whether that meets your approval for recommendation to the zoning commission or not. So those are the 4 different types of applications. There are 2 illustrative master plans that were part of the whole charrette process. They're just simply called Master Plan 1, Master Plan 2. Master Plan 1 is shown on Appendix A. Master Plan 2 is shown on Appendix C. The difference between them, you can see that the north site, for example, on Appendix 1, Master Plan 1, Appendix A, Master Plan 1, has some commercial activity. There's a significant amount of residential development as proposed as part of that as well. While the southern portion of the site leaves the existing building in place and has other what are called a mixed-use transition, that is some commercial activities that are constructed essentially in the parking lot, that huge parking lot that's currently there now. So there's really not a lot of change in impervious area, but there certainly would be a change in the number of buildings on the site. And that could be one potential type of development. The second type of development that could possibly occur there may be many others, but this is the second one that we came up with during the charrette process, was this, essentially a residential development on the north piece. That would be either a small neighborhood commercial and then a clustered neighborhood. That is a small commercial area surrounded by a clustered residential development. Could be on the northern piece as well. On the southern portion of the property, under Master Plan 2, the building that's there now is called a Special Design District, which essentially could remain as it is. It could be reconfigured inside. One of the wings could be used for one or more tenants. But there's also a small neighborhood commercial building that's there as well, whether it's Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or whatever. So there are 2 completely different types of things that could happen there. And it could be a variety of either one of those things as well. So the regulation allows for a variety of things to happen. Those are just 2 illustrations of what could happen. So that's basically how the regulation's constructed. Any comments, questions, suggestions, anything?
I just have a question. The neighborhood commercial designation, where you said it could be like a Whole Foods or is there anything that designates, that prevents that from becoming a Target or a,
A large format?
a large box store, yeah?
Yeah. The,
Square footage?
there is no current square footage limitation in the regulation right now. Now, whether this commission wants to make a recommendation that way, or whether the zoning commission does, that certainly is a possibility, there's no question about that. The way the regulation is constructed now is that would have to go through, because these buildings that are shown here are a lot smaller than that, would have to go through probably a type 4 application through the whole
Okay,
process.
so it would go through a huge approval process
Yeah.
before that would happen?
Absolutely. The other thing that's kind of interesting here is that the existing building is so large, and it's 641,000 square feet. So when you look at 100,000 square feet, it would be 1/6 of the existing building.
I know.
It's so small. So
It
that's
is,
the-
but people don't make those,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I struggle with that building and how it's, the deferred maintenance program has probably been laxed over the years, considering they've been thinking now for a while to move out of there. What kind of condition is that building going to be in 10 years?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of us have been in the building, and it's an impressive building.
It
obviously,
is.
It's so large, and some of the materials that were used back in '82 or '84 when that was constructed, pretty nice materials. There's a tremendous amount of, I would assume, very valuable materials in it. I can only speak to what the consultants thought about it when they were here, and they thought, well, it needs some paint and a few minor things, but they thought that overall the maintenance had been done pretty well. But you're right, in terms of what would happen in the future, how energy efficient is that building right now? Probably not much at all. I mean, with those atriums and the way the building is currently constructed, I'm sure, solid glass walls all around the cafeteria.
And I'm not thinking now, now or in 2 years. I'm thinking 10 or 15 years from now, what kind of building?
Yeah.
Now that they're looking to get out of there, and we're going to be
Hopefully we'll get a tenant by
Well,
then.
so I'm saying, we're going to be sitting on we could potentially be sitting
Or
on
it
this property
gets demoed.
with no deferred maintenance for a number of years, and all of a sudden we've got nearly a 700,000 square foot building that is rubble.
Yeah.
Signet confronted that with the Fraser Building. There was a Gordon Bunshoff design and got designated as an historic building, and they were married to.
Right.
That is a cool
That's my
building, though.
concern with this, and then there's not much that in this point we can do with that, but it's just.
Get out there and sell it. Get some tenant in there. Talk it up,
I
Ron.
am not a salesman, that's for sure.
Go find us a tenant.
Well, I think the thing about this is, based on those comments, I think the thing that's helpful is that this regulation allows a variety of things to happen. The idea was to try to do something that was economically feasible. So it doesn't simply say, the existing building is there and the only thing that's acceptable is another building like it or another office building. That's just not realistic today. Whether, 10 or 20 or 50 years down the road that's going to come back, we don't know, but at least at this point in time, the regulation allows for a variety of different things to happen there, so we're hopeful that will have some gravity with some developer.
So you're not asking us really to comment on the different master plans, these are just illustrations of possible interpretations of the...
That's correct, John.
Base code?
The zoning commission will have their public hearing on this actual application on the 16th, June 16th. Gateway will be here, we'll be in the library for that particular meeting and invite all the land use commissions to come. So if you have any comments on any part of the regulation or any of the master plans, anything at all, let us know and you email me if you like. I'll put the comments in the record. Or feel free to come to that meeting and make those comments too. Get as much input on the record as possible.
It's a lot to absorb.
It is, there's no question.
They're just hypothetical. I mean, there could be thousands of different options, so they're just, somebody did a
It's in the code,
conceptual.
though, there's a lot in that.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
if I may.
Okay, any other comments, John?
Oh, yeah. If you look at Appendix A, and we have the existing building. And then you look at Appendix C, and we have the existing building with all the parking space for that building. It doesn't compute for me. Where do the cars go that are going to occupy that building under the Plan A and B?
Well, there are a couple of different things that could happen. One is that some portions of the building might be used for something other than a employee-intensive use, whether it's storage, warehouse, something that would require a lot of space and very few people. Maybe Amazon.com wants to move in there and 2 people will run the whole thing. I don't know.
Or one droid.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever those little flying things are.
It's always possible.
To deliver packages.
There's no question that if
It
somebody
is.
came in to use that building, we'd have to see what that use was and try to fit that to the parking that would be required. But that's one of the great things about this code, is it allows the flexibility to do those kinds of things without saying, okay, if you've got this, you must do that. It provides some incentive, and we're hoping that not only the CBRE, the realtor, but the state will help us market this thing as well. So try to get somebody interested in it.
Well, I just want to have that issue on the table because
I think there are.
I have no problem with the potential flexibility of this process. But I think we need to remember that intensive parking space should not be part of the program, either residential or commercial. And I'm talking about open space now. There are obviously solutions to the parking problem. But I think every time we talk about it, I will talk about the concern I have, no matter how flexible we get, where the car's going to be and how are they going to be housed.
I wouldn't be surprised to see, not in the terribly distant future, with Google doing what they're doing with cars, that if people have their car, bring them to the site, and then the car leaves while they work.
Yeah, I saw that. That was cool.
I think, when I was a transportation officer in the service, and I wrote to the Secretary of Transportation about 30 years ago about that. I didn't have all the specific plans in mind, but I said, that's exactly what ought to happen. We don't need a car. It just goes there, takes you there, and the computer goes back to get the next person. So something like that could happen as well. I don't know. Probably not tomorrow, but perhaps in a few years from now. So.
Well, I think, when we're talking about this kind of concept where we want to, if you will, accommodate a potential owner or owners or businesses and residential and so on, that we have to be prepared to offer alternatives and alternative ideas that are agreeable, that can fit the program in this code.
Sure, I think that's great. I mean, I think if anything, what hopefully we've shown in the last 2 years is we're willing to be flexible, we're willing to think outside the box and to try to do that.
No, I think it's great.
All right, great. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Oh.
I would say one thing.
Sure.
As the zoning liaison, he's over there. I'm the president of PAC Inc. And I thought that it might be interesting to ask you guys if you have an interest in helping us, this is the Performing Arts Center, with the idea of designing and building, but designing, figuring out how to design a removable cover for 3,000 seats.
That's great.
It's been done for football stadiums at 300 million, but they cover 60 and 80,000 people. We want to cover 2,500 to 3,000 with a retractable roof that would be able to be put up if it was going to rain, that would survive wind and thunderstorms, which is but would be able to be opened for the nights that it's a good night and the symphony would like to play under the stars and everybody wants to be under the stars. So we, as the PAC board, which is a 501c3 now managing the facility, have decided that what we want to do is to figure out if we can do such a thing. And if so, then we'll go raise the money to try to do it. And I'm not thinking that it's going to be cheap, but it would be the first one that anybody has ever done in this that I'm aware of. I know there are, Boca Raton has one that they pay $30,000 to rent for 6 or 7 weeks. It comes in, it goes over 3,000 seats. It's like a big tent. It's anchored in cement and it's steel and all this kind of stuff. It's not going anywhere. But it's not something that you can open and close. So it's our dream, and you guys are creative and interested in the town's well-being, and we thought maybe we'll ask you guys if you have an interest in it, a group of you have an interest in it. Is there some ideas that you can give us? Who to talk to? Obviously, we're interested in acoustics and also the durability and some creative ideas. I mean, we have big masts, and I know somebody was talking about a 4-square, huge ship that has masts that are 350 feet, I think the guy told me, that roll up into the center. So, you know, could we do something like that? You know, I don't know, and if it costs millions, let's figure out how to do it and go
Do you
find the
have
money.
any money, or do you have money available for a study or for someone to
We
come in?
raised $20,000 a month ago, and we're amenable to going and putting the arm on people if we can.
One word comes to mind. One word comes to mind for this application. Inflatable.
It's got to be able to go up and down.
Well, no, I'm saying you can do that.
Yeah.
It can be done.
Okay, no, we're looking for good ideas.
Well, you know, an inflatable building normally is not, but the people that make inflatable buildings can probably figure out a way to do it sectionally, if you will, or whatever. When you need it, by weather forecast, up it goes. When you don't need it, down it comes. I mean, I don't know all the,
Yeah, no,
you know,
that's
I don't know all
good
the
idea.
detail, but
I would,
Anyway.
I'll definitely think about it, and I can just email Hiram, like, I have a
Is
couple
that to
thoughts
be
and.
located down here
Yeah,
where the band shell is?
yes. And we're assuming that the band shell is going to have to undergo some redesign as well. You can't just put something up in front of it and have it stay the way it is. So, but anyway,
It
we're
could be
looking
really
for
great
help.
for the town, though. You
And
could have someone
individually,
more
or if you
events.
guys want to form a group that wants to talk with us about it, we'd love to get your ideas and
Yeah,
help.
let me think about a couple things, and I'll gather some ideas and send them through to you, because, see what I can find
Well,
out.
you're
It's a
up.
great
And
concept.
the town would own the property in the end, and would be responsible for maintaining it. So we have to go through the capital appropriation process, but we're gonna have to find the money, the design, and all of that stuff. So we're just looking for some help.
while you're up, David,
Yep.
There's an interesting concept.
I had a thought, and I think I've mentioned this to Emil once or twice. When your agenda includes one of our recommendations, we see it in the legal notices that you approved it with changes, or what's your word? When you approved it with,
You're talking about
Modifications or
zoning?
conditions.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that we get a copy of your, what's the word, Emil?
Approval?
Hiram.
Copy of the decision, Mike?
Approve with
Conditions or modifications?
conditions, yes.
That's,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm not the chairman of zoning.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.